Felicitous greetings, fellow fanatics. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Adam the Fanatic, and today we're doing things a little differently this time. Instead of looking at a singular game, we're instead going to look at the birth of a genre as we explore the wave of recent Bullet Heaven titles. Without any further ado, let's dive in. Of course, the Bullet Heaven genre wouldn't exist if we didn't have the much more established Bullet Hell genre, although for obvious reasons, I generally tend to use the less common name Curtain Shooter instead. A subgenre of shoot-'em-ups, these games have so many bullets on screen at once that they'll often form patterns that resemble curtains. These are known for being brutally difficult, and typically, it only takes a single hit to blow you up. But what happens if you were to reverse that idea? In October of 2022, Luca Galante, better known by his programmer moniker Pongal, released a budget indie game called Vampire Survivors. In it, you take on the role of a vampire hunter and fight off hordes of enemies. It starts off fairly slow, but your firepower and enemies alike will rapidly ramp up to screen-filling levels. As you defeat enemies, they'll drop experience crystals which you can collect to level up. When you level up, you can either gain a new weapon or upgrade an existing one. By default, you can have 6 active weapons, including the one you start with, and 6 passive weapons, which generally give you stat buffs but don't do anything on their own. When defeating stronger enemies, you can also pick up treasure chests, which upgrade a random weapon you already own. However, if you have an active weapon at max level and collect the right passive weapon, then treasure chests have a chance to upgrade the active weapon by evolving its form. What's more, there's a lot to unlock here. There are dozens of characters, weapons, and stages that can be obtained in various ways. That's not even going into the DLCs, which bring those counts up to the hundreds. You'll also collect gold in each run, which can be used to purchase upgrades in an almost roguelite-like fashion. What is it about the genre that caused such a small and simple concept to take off like wildfire? We'll get back to that in the conclusion, but for now, let's take a look at a few other titles that have spawned from it. Of those I've played, 20 Minutes Till Dawn is the earliest outside of Vampire Survivors itself, releasing in June of 2023. It has a very stylized look with a mostly monochrome color scheme, with an obvious exception of splashes of red. Unlike Vampire Survivors, 20 Minutes controls more like a twin-stick shooter, allowing you to move and aim in separate directions. As its name implies, standard runs have a 20-minute timer as opposed to Vampire Survivors' slightly longer half-hour for standard stages. Your main weapon will always be a projectile, usually a gun of some sort, and you do have to worry about your clip or quiver. If you stop firing for a couple seconds, you'll reload manually. Alternatively, if you run out of ammo, you'll automatically reload. It does feel like they were trying to be more unique with the weapons and characters than Vampire Survivors, but honestly, it has a severe lack of variety in comparison, and frankly, the art style is not to my taste at all. Then we have what might be the strangest game on this list, Holocure. Released in August of 2023, Holocure is a completely free fan project celebrating Hololive. What is Hololive? I'm still not entirely clear on that myself, but from what I understand, it's a group of VTubers that are contracted by a single company that makes money off their merchandise. Honestly,
I don't care.
I don't care!
I don't care!
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
Nobody cares.
that being said, the game itself is actually very solid. The basic gameplay isn't wildly different from Vampire Survivors, but it has some features from 20 Minutes that it feels like it pulls off much better. Most notably, the way each character has their own unique abilities that nobody else does. Not to mention, each has a super move you can activate. Weapons upgrade in a fashion more similar to Vampire Survivors, though instead of evolving weapons by using an active and a passive weapon, you instead fuse 2 active weapons into a collab weapon, and each weapon has at least 2 others it can be paired with in this manner. The other major feature that makes this one stand out is the Hollow House mode. While you can still spend coins to buy upgrades in the standard fashion, there's also this mode where you can fish, garden, raise livestock, decorate a house, and gamble at a casino. This actually can help you in the main game depending on what you unlock there. And while I've obviously spent very little time and effort in decorating the house, there are a lot of things you can unlock for it if it's your style, and this is meant to be your main money sink once you've bought all the stat bonuses. Moving on to Twilight Survivors. Yes, I know we were just talking about vampires, but I promise this has nothing to do with that Twilight.
Tell me, do you dream of being a vampire?
This is how we're represented. Unbelievable.
Regardless, this one is even more of a budget title than Vampire Survivors, with a standard price tag of only $3, and it often goes on sale for less than $2. Released in April of 2024, it's the only game on the list that uses 3D models rather than sprites. It falls somewhere between 20 minutes and Vampire Survivors in terms of variety. Characters are well varied, but relatively few in number compared to the likes of Vampire Survivors. Unlike Vampire Survivors, each character does have a unique starting weapon, but I feel with fewer weapons available, it might have been better to just let everyone use every weapon. The two things that really make this stand out are the dash, which gives you a few frames of invincibility while rapidly moving you in a set direction, and the bosses, which feel a bit more fleshed out than others in the genre. The meta progression is also fairly different. Instead of shared stat boosts, each character has their own skill tree which can be enhanced, though getting it to a certain point does bolster other characters as well. You also collect Quent cards, no, I did not misspell that, which give you a boost for the rest of the run. And if it's a card you haven't already unlocked, you'll permanently gain it as a part of your collection, and equip 1 to 4 cards at the start of each run. And finally, the most recent game we're going to be looking at today is the early access title, Death Must Die. Being early access, obviously it's not finished, but it does things fairly differently from the others. While the general concepts are very similar to some of the aforementioned games, twin stick shooter style controls, dashes for temporary invincibility, fighting off endless hordes of monsters, the main thing that makes this one stand out is the inventory. Instead of simply buying stat buffs, you'll instead collect equipment in looter RPG fashion. And even if you fall in battle, you'll keep whatever equipment you found and can hopefully use it to last longer next time. There's currently 3 chapters in the game, with 5 planned for the completed product. It is the most expensive game on this list, not counting the DLCs for Vampire Survivors, and it is questionable whether the game will really have enough content to justify a higher price tag versus the others. That being said, it is being a bit more adventurous with mixing genres, and what's there so far is solid, though it does have a bit of an identity crisis at times. It's as if the designers couldn't decide whether they wanted to do a serious game or a goofy one. I'm fine with either, but don't pretend you're trying to be a serious game and then have the sorceress literally use leak speak when she talks. It's very disjarring. So what is it that makes these games so appealing? If I had to guess, it's the feeling of fitting RPG-like progression into a bite-sized package. Most of the time, games that have you leveling up and building your characters take quite a bit of time. Amongst RPGs, 20 to 30 hours is generally considered a short game, but with Vampire Survivors and the like, you get that same feeling of progression and advancement in 20 to 30 minutes. Beyond that, it's a simple formula that just about anyone can pick up and understand in seconds, making it easy for casual gamers to dive right in. But they also tend to have a lot to do for those who really want to sink their teeth in and spend dozens or even hundreds of hours mastering everything that they have to offer. So out of those I've mentioned, which ones do I suggest? Considering it's free, it's hard not to recommend Holocure. It really is a solid entry in the genre regardless. There's a lot of characters, plenty of weapon variety, and the optional extra modes do add a lot of fun to the game. Comparing it just to Vampire Survivors' base game, I think it genuinely might be better regardless of price. That being said, Vampire Survivors is the way to go if you don't mind spending a bit of money. While it does have DLCs, they're bite-sized prices and actually give quite a bit of content. They try to make each DLC feel unique in some way or another, and they actually add a lot to it, especially the Castlevania crossover DLC. I can only imagine what a dream come true that must have been for Punkle, considering just how many references already existed in Vampire Survivors to begin with. Twilight Survivors doesn't feel as strong as the aforementioned two, but at $3 or less, it's a solid game that you can easily pour plenty of time into if you still want more. Death Must Die does show promise, but considering it's in early access and has less content than the other games at this point, it's really hard to recommend, especially with its higher price tag. And as for 20 minutes till dawn, it definitely feels like the weakest out of these 5, even compared to the as of yet incomplete Death Must Die. Maybe I'm biased because of the art style, but it just isn't my cup of tea. If you're interested in purchasing any of these titles, links are included in the description. There's a lot of them this time. But what about you? What do you think of the bullet heaven genre? Which titles do you recommend? If you have any questions, remarks, or opposing points of view, leave them in the comments down below. And don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and ring that bell. If you really enjoy my work, please consider funding my channel on Patreon. Until next time, farewell, fellow fanatics. Thank you again for watching. I have plenty more to share with you if you're interested. You can click up here above my head to subscribe to my channel. You can click over here on my monitor to see the most recent video that I've worked on. Or if you prefer, you can click up here to open this mysterious vault and see what video that the YouTube algorithm has picked just for you.